But as a kid, I had no idea what I wanted to be except a superhero.
Well, how did music come into your life?
I grew up in Queens, New York. I grew up in Queens, New York, and back then when I was a little boy, there was a radio station here called 77 WABC. And they used to play John Lennon, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, The Who, but they also played James Brown, Sly and the Family Stone, and Aretha Franklin and everything. So I grew up as a little boy listening to that station. But it was really funny. I wasn't really into the Jackson 5 and James Brown and the afros and the high heels and the bell bottoms. For some reason, I was really, really attracted to all the rock stars, you know, to the Elton Johns and the Bob Dylans and the Jim Croces and the Harry Chapins. So for some reason, when I started hearing rock and roll and really a lot of the folk music, that's kind of, I gravitated toward music.
Okay, we all grew up hearing the same things, but clearly some of us went one way very far with their love of music, like you, and others like me, just fans. What brought you into the business?
Well, after listening to 77 WABC as a little boy, then disco got really big. And I wasn't really into disco, you know, it wasn't like, to me disco didn't suck, I just wasn't into it. But then right after all of that Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta, the Bee Gees with all those hit records, then Donna Summer, and disco was really big. It was, you know, the Tramps even did Burn, Baby, Burn, Disco Inferno. Disco was huge. But right after that, it was about the DJ. And something evolved out of DJ called hip-hop. And when I heard the first DJs and MCs, before there was record deals, these DJs, they would play in the parks, and they would play in the little clubs in the neighborhood, and people would bring their boom boxes and make cassette tape recordings of these live performances. And it started in the Bronx, New York, in Harlem, and it came over the bridge in the Queens. Yes, Bronx is sacred area. You know, the Bronx is the mecca of hip-hop, because that's where it began. And it came over the bridge via boom boxes and cassette tape recorders. And when I heard the DJs and the music, and there wasn't rappers and there were MCs there. And right as soon as I heard the first DJs and MCs, I don't know, something in me said, man, that is me. It's my genetic makeup, it's my vibe, it's my aura, it's my spirit. Everything that I hear and feel in this music is describing me, every feeling, every emotion. So the day I heard hip-hop, it was over.
And does that mean you overcame your shyness too? Did you know you wanted to be a performer?
Oh.
Or you just happy to hear it?
No, the shyness was still there. Now, I was happy to hear it, but I was still in my basement, all alone, back in the corner by the boiler, in front of the mirror.
Jeffrey Dahmer, please.
No. Well, I was in the basement all alone, just pretending that I was a DJ and an MC. And I think the lesson out of that is, you know, when you think about religion, when you think spirituality and stuff like that, what you behold, you become. So I was just in the basement pretending to be the greatest MC in the world. And I started writing these rhymes about how I'm better than anything that ever existed, and I'm the king, and I'm dominating, and nobody's better than me, and I don't want to just battle the other rappers. I want to take Elton John and the Rolling Stones out. So I guess that was practice now. That was just pretend, because I was a student. So my main focus was school. And when I wasn't doing my homework and when I wasn't in school, the way people play with the G.I. Joes and their army men, or the way little girls would play with their Barbie dolls, I would play with this hip-hop thing.
So you go on, you meet Joey Simmons, you all cut your first single, and the next thing you know, your song is being played on the radio. Who broke that news to you, and what was your response?
Well, Ryan actually broke the news to me that the record was on the radio. He came over my house one day. Before we made the record, he came over my house one day, and he found my school books. Because in my school books, I used to, everything I learned, I would write a rap about. So we was in my basement one day, and he found my school books, and he was like, Daryl, because it wasn't DMC yet, you wrote all this? And I was like, yeah, you know, it was like homework to me. And he was like, yo, my brother's Russell Simmons. He manages Curtis Blow, and he does these rush parties and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And he just looked at me and said, this was the 9th grade. When Russell lets me make a record, I'm going to put you in a group. So we went to different high schools, 9, 10, 11, 12. We graduated. The phone rings. It was Joe. Grab the school books. We're going to the studio. So grabbed the school books, went to the studio. We made the first record. It's like that, and that's the way they sucker MCs. And we gave it to Russell. Now, I'm thinking, okay, the best thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have a record on the radio like Grandmaster Flash and Africa Bambaataa. So that's all that's going to happen. That was in the summer when we recorded. I made it into St. John's University. During the time when we recorded the record to the time when I was in my first semester at St. John's, Russell was going around to every label trying to get a record deal. And all of them said no. Could you believe that? They said no because our rap was different. It had rock music with it, and it was just beats, and we wasn't rhyming about, like, our record wasn't about the message, broken glass everywhere, and, you know, it wasn't like Planet Rock and Record of Vision. Soul, Sonic Force, Mr. Big, Bow Wow, and MC Glow, we emphasized, Two Show, We Got Ego, Make This Shit Night. It wasn't like that. It was these two guys bragging about chicken and collard greens at St. John's University. So the label thought, this rap's a fad, it isn't going to sell. Eventually, Russell got the record deal. I'm sitting at home trying to figure out what my life is going to be like. Because when I went to St. John's, I went for business management. When I got into college, I realized something. When you get into college, it's not like an elementary school. Nobody helps you. So I had to look at it and say, what could I do? I don't like accounting. I don't like business management. I don't like bookkeeping. I don't like none of this. Oh, I can draw really good. So I told my mother, whatever has to do with drawing, architecture, graphic design, man, I would even be doing the funny papers in the local newspaper because that's what I could do. While I'm figuring all this out, the phone rings. It's Joe. Run. Yo, Russell got a sign, G. The record's coming out. It's going to be on the radio. It's going to play on 98.7 hits. And I'm like, yeah, Joe, whatever, don't bother me. Now I'm trying to figure out what my life is going to be about. I hang up the phone on him. He keeps calling back. And finally said, okay, I'll listen. Now, I was trying to act like I didn't care, but when that record came on the radio, I was like, man, this is unbelievable. And it was just here in New York, but it was like, this is unbelievable. But still, in the back of my mind, my main focus was, what am I going to do in my life?
So when did it finally become clear to you that music would be your life, and when did you start to claim, I am a musician, you know, filling out your passport application form and write down musician under profession?
I really think it was the record played on the radio in New York, then it played on the radio in Philly, then it played on the radio in Baltimore, then it played on the radio in Virginia. I think by the time our first record was a national hit, it started to sink in that, oh, maybe this is something that I could possibly do. So I was always in a preparation. Like, you know, if you're going to take a test, you need to study. Whatever in life you need to do, you need to prepare for it. So I was like still thinking I'm going to be a student. In the back of my mind, I was going, this ain't going to last. Because they was already saying, you know, the music industry, critics and journalists and educators were saying, hip-hop, rap music is a fad. So I would say, just in case it's not a fad, let me write the most devastating rhymes that I could possibly ever write. So I just wrote a book of rhymes. First record, first single was a hit. Russell made us do a second single. So I'm still like, okay, we'll probably get 2 singles out of it. It really dawned on me that this is going to be something legitimate. It could be a legitimate career when we finally did a rap album. Because at the time, it was unheard of.
Okay, along with your sound being very original, the look was also original. There was a certain way that rappers had looked before Run-DMC. Tell me how you guys changed the game and who came up with your look, your uniform.
Okay, that's a really great question. The rappers before us, first of all, let me make this clear. There is no Run-DMC, no Jay-Z, nobody in hip-hop if it wasn't for the true pioneers. They call Run-DMC the pioneers and legends. No, we are just guys that took the torch and carried it to the current generation. This is all possible for artists like Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, Africa Bambaataa, Cold Stephanie MC, Funky 4+1, Sha Rock MC, one of the greatest female MCs ever. Now, when the first MCs started making those singles and getting them played on the radio, It was kind of going from the streets to the stage. So now they're in show business. You gotta understand something. The first rappers, or MC, the first rappers had no rappers to look up to. They had no rappers to take their looks, concepts, and sounds from. So when Grandmaster Flash and Furious Bob and Afro Bambaataa got into showbiz, their idols was the Rolling Stones, Parliament Funkadelic, and Rick James. So when they went on stage, they wore what the Rolling Stones, Parliament, and Funkadelic, and Rick James wore. The leather and the braids and the beads and the spikes and the boots and all of that. And you know, if you look at Afro Bambaataa, Parliament Funkadelic, they look like the same thing. Our idols was those rappers and MCs and DJs before they got into showbiz. When, if you was to go see Melly Mel and Kool Moe Dee and all of them back in the day, they had on British Walkers, Adidas, Pumas, Lee jeans, gold chains, Mocknicks, Godfather hats, sheepskins, leather coats, right? So when we get into showbiz, Russell goes, okay, you know, the record's doing hot. We're going to start doing these concerts. We're going to start doing these shows. Y'all need some show stage attire. And we was like, okay, Russell, but we ain't wearing that stuff right there. Russell was like, but they gotta wear something. So we just looked at what the rappers and the MCs and DJs were wearing before us, and we said, we'll model a little for that. So in our early career, me and Rum was kind of all over the place. You know, we had on checkered jackets. If y'all go Google us, you'll see a picture of me with some checkered, me and Rum with checkered jackets. I had on Adidas, he had on Pumas, we was all over the place. But when we first started making our music and we needed a DJ, when we put Jam Master Jay down as a DJ, it was like our second show. And we were still trying to figure out our looks and stuff like that. Jay came out the house with like people used to have boom boxes, 2-speaker boom boxes. Jay came out the house with a 4-speaker, 2-cassette boom box, a black leather blazer, black leather pants, white on white Adidas with the shoestrings around his neck, no shoestrings in them, his gold chain hanging from his neck, and a Godfather hat. When we saw how awesome that looked, Russell looked at that and we said, we know, Russell, that's our stage costume right there.
Okay, now not everybody fell in love with the stage costume. Apparently there was a very prominent man in Harvard's.
Yes.
Dr. D, who had something to say about your look.
Yes, and when we looked up the Dr. D's a lot. Now, our look was reflective of everybody in our neighborhood. It wasn't like we said we created, people think we started something with Adidas and the fashion and Adidas, you know, our look and the Kangles and all of that. But that's what that's how young people were dressing. But at the same time, if you got some money, legitimately, you go get fresh. If you got money illegitimately or illegally, you go get fresh. So apparently, the criminals and the drug dealers and the gangbangers were dressing the way hip-hop was dressing. There was a doctor in the neighborhood named Dr. D's, and much love to Dr. D's because he was an inspiration to our neighborhood. Mothers and fathers used to drive by his house and stop the little kid there. If you're 6 or 7 years old, you had to go by Dr. D's house because your mother and father would stop and say, "Do you see that big house? You see that Mercedes Benz in there? That's Dr. D's house. That's what you work to aspire to grow up and be. You got to go to school for 55,000 years to get there." Okay, so that was in our mind. And Dr. D's, he was very well respected. He would do these newsletters once a week about, you know, conditions in the neighborhood, drugs, gangs, obesity, whatever it was. So one day, he does a newsletter called Felon Shoes. And in this newsletter, he said that the young people you see with the fresh Adidas and the gold chains and the Kangles and the Lee jeans and Adidas shoes, these are the problems of our communities. So me and Ron, we kind of took that personally. It was like, what are you talking about? I ain't in no gang. I'm a straight-A student. I go to St. John's University. Yeah, I got Adidas. So what upset us was he was trying to stereotype us, and you can't judge the book by the cover. So Russell came up with this idea, no, y'all need to make a record about your sneakers. So that gave us a chance not to just, if you listen to a rap record nowadays about their sneakers, they're just talking about how many pairs of sneakers they got. So me and Ron thought if we could use this as an opportunity to educate people, inspire some people, and bring an understanding between the older and younger generation. So we said, yeah, we're going to do a record about our sneakers, but we're going to talk about all the positive places these sneakers went. Yes, we started on the corner of 2/5, right after with the gangbangers and drug dealers, but we was able to take what you was deeming negative. I stepped on the steps of St. John's University. We played in Africa. We played in Japan on top of that. We stepped on stage at La Vegas, the people gave it a call got paid. So I don't know a way that, bring an understanding to the world about, yes, there's crime, yes, there's poverty, yes, it's bad in the hood. But if you take your time and look, there's a whole lot of good in the hood too.
I love to hear of a young boy singing about where his feet and his shoes are taking him. And that's like the metaphor from the mind and everything else. Where physically has your music taken you that you just pinched yourself and said,
oh my God. Oh my. When we first went to Japan, it was crazy because we were just happy going over to LA. We were happy to be able to go to Washington, D.C. The big thing was we was happy to go to Miami, Florida, coming from Hollis. You know what I'm saying? That was the stuff the dreams were made of. But I remember when we first went to Japan, it's amazing how powerful good music, good positive music is. Because when we got to Japan, even if those Japanese kids didn't understand what we sang, they understood the music and they understood the vibe and the feeling because it was so positive. We got off the plane and it was Japanese B-boys and B-girls standing there with Adidas no laces, Adidas ankles, no chains. And all they knew was to do this to communicate. And it was a beautiful thing. They was like, we're DMC. And we would turn and look, they would go. And right then and there was a big connection. When we went to Germany, when we would go over to Germany, and this was time when the Berlin Wall was up. And, we would hear stories where the kids would pass the cassette tapes over the wall. My uncle ran and almost got shot just to give me the tape before they pulled him back. And it was just beautiful going to places like Germany, Japan. And when we went to Russia, we played in Red Square. It was crazy. It was like 9,000 Russian kids out there holding up their Adidas, singing the words to King of Rock. Probably had no idea what they were saying, but it was good to them.
When you talk about connection, I think about the Grammys last week. Did you watch?
I didn't get to see it.
Okay. For anybody who saw it, I'm sure this stood out to a lot of people. We have Lady Gaga, now we have Nicki Minaj, where the big extravagant production has been the way that music is going. I think to the exclusion of talent and sometimes the voice. I do think Gaga is talented, but I think it's important for someone like her. Adina's telling me to wrap up. Go ahead, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Please.
I think it's important when people who have something to say get lost in the production.
Right.
But then there was a big pendulum swing when Adele was the sweetheart of the evening. A woman who just with her voice and a melody and some beautiful lyrics swept the show and took the really I want to know what you think about that. The extravagant side of show business and the part where somebody just touches your heart, and who has touched your heart in a profound way, musically?
That's a great analogy, because what Adele represents is the heart and the essence of hip-hop. These kids from the Bronx, New York had nothing. We didn't have Studio 54, we didn't have money, we didn't have good educations, it was crazy for us. But we took something that was nothing and we created something that was real good. But what I'm trying to say is, we had a responsibility to the audience. The audience is our community. So when you look at music nowadays, it's about being successful with everything except the song and the music. The reason why hip-hop does what it does all the time is because the whole essence is motivation, inspiration, education, and information. The changing of ideas, the sharing of ideas and concepts. And when you look at music today, the show, the lights and all of that, when we came into hip-hop, we was totally against all of that because we wanted people to listen to the music and hear the message that was in the music. It was about the message that was in the music. When we first started getting on MTV, and we would go to the MTV Music Awards, those commentators, we would never walk the red carpet and be asked this. if it was Run-DMC, Tribe Called Quest, Beastie Boys, Houdini, LL Cool J, Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim, Cypress Hill, EPMD, leaders of the new school, nobody would ever ask us, excuse me, what kind of chain is that you have? What kind of rims is that on your car? They would ask young people, why are you saying what you're saying? Why did you use that jazz music for your music? Why did you use that jazz? It was always about the culture and the community of our people. People nowadays in music will do everything else except make a good song. Yes.
When we first spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago, no one would be here today. Never could we imagine that Whitney Houston would be buried today and people would be mourning all over the world. And I feel like the press has let us down in the coverage in that they're banging that drumbeat. How could somebody so young, so beautiful, so wealthy do herself in like this? As if her fame and fortune somehow precluded her humanity.
Right.
Give me your insights on that, because you've had your own struggles with substance abuse, with depression, and you've been very frank about it.
Yes. Well, the first thing that I like to say is, when people come to me and say, DMC, I'm your fan, I go, no. Don't never say you're my fan. Say you're my friend. Because as soon as you say you're my fan, that implies that I'm above you, that I'm better from you, that I'm different from you. No, I'm not better from you, I'm not smarter than you, I'm not more talented than you. I am you. We are all in the same boat. We are human at the end of the day. And I read this several years ago. This is before Master J got shot and killed. We was touring, he was touring the world, and I was drinking myself to death. I was at a point in my life where I was a metaphysical, suicidal, alcoholic, physical wreck. Why? And when I told people that, they looked at me and said, D, why you're DMC, the king of rock, the microphone man? I said, no. Those are things that I say that I am in my music. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all struggle. And I think show business used to be at a point where it was more important about the humanity of the artist than about who married who, how much money is in the bank, who's dating who, and who did what nonsense last night. They used to talk about the good thing the artists do. When you look at rock and roll, Bob Dylan, John Lennon, John Fogerty, if there was an issue that existed in our society, those rock and rollers sung about it, whether it was the Vietnam War, whether it was drug abuse, whether it was women's rights, whether it was civil rights, they sung about it. Nowadays, all people, especially hip-hop, all they do is sing about all of this premarital sex and all of the drug use and how good it is to drink. And then as soon as somebody succumbs to those things, that's all they focus on. People are human in the music business. And Whitney Houston was great for everything that she did with her talent and as an artist. But at the end of the day, it's a tragedy because this is another human being we lost.